welcome. I am Lucinda Curran, your host for the 2016 Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, and today I'm introducing you to Cyril Smith. Hi Cyril, how are you?
Hello there.
Thank you for coming along. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be able to say a bit more about the environment and electrical sensitivities that it produces.
Absolutely. Now, your work, even in your retirement, is linked to environmental sensitivities. Can you tell us a little bit more about this, please?
Oh dear. Well, in 1982, somebody saw a paper we'd published, and they were involved with chemically and electrically sensitive patients, one in England and one in America, and they said, could I help them? And since then I have been doing my best to help with the science of the problem of what goes wrong when people develop an unusual sensitivity to chemicals or electrical signals in their environment.
It's quite fascinating because you've taken, I guess, a slightly different approach to it because you're also looking at the frequencies. So it's not just, say, the EMF that's being emitted by a device. You're looking at frequencies as well. Can you elaborate just a tiny bit on that?
Yes. It sort of goes back even further in history that the idea was that if you didn't overheat people with electrical radiation, then there was no problem. Technicians very often slept near the feeders to radars because it was nice and warm there. But the idea is promulgated and reinforced over the years that the only problems of the electrical environment are the problems of heating, and that means that people are doing sums as to how hot things can get, but once you realize that a frequency can have a biological effect, then the whole idea of heating is irrelevant, because you can have a frequency in a field which has no heating effect whatsoever, and that can produce a biological effect just like that. And the relation then is that the chemical bonds all have associated frequencies, or you wouldn't be able to identify chemicals by spectroscopy, and these chemical frequencies, if they're matched by the same pattern in the environment, then the body that already has chemical sensitivity thinks it's being attacked again by chemicals, whereas it's just being kidded by the electrical environment.
It's such a fascinating area, and we'll be talking about it a lot more in the symposium. But I wanted to ask you now a very personal question, and I like to call this the curly question. So, what was the first thing that you ever wanted to be?
First thing I ever wanted to
be?
Oh, I think an engine driver. My grandfather was one.
Oh, how wonderful. Tell me more.
I don't know much more about it. The old days of steam trains that were quite fascinating things, and you had an awful lot of power at your fingertips when you drove one.
That's gorgeous. And the final question for our little interview now is, what is something that inspires you?
The search for what's going on in nature and the world. It's a fascinating hunt and search, and sometimes things work and sometimes they don't, and you go back to the drawing board.
Fantastic. Everybody, you've just been hearing a little bit from Cyril Smith, and you can hear a lot more from him at the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium. We'd love to see you there.